Chapter 1. Who is the Necromancer? Long time ago there was a small farm. In that small farm worked a landlord and his 15 slaves. Amongst the slaves there were many brutal fights, and once every month the landlord made 2 of the slaves to fight for death. It was at one full moon that one of the slaves gave birth to a weak, pathetic child. The child was kept secret under the floorboards, whilst the slaves worked their duty. Every night the mother tried her best to keep the little baby alive, and hoped for a better tomorrow. Two months had passed since the baby was born. Unfortunately, one dark rainy night the landlord heard the child's mother singing to the child, and quickly realized what was going on. When the landlord found out about the baby, he killed all the male slaves he owned and threw that weak and pathetic child into a river. After that, he watched as the slave who gave birth to this child cut her own throat and laughed at her cold dead body. The baby, however, showing great zest of life, survived the river far enough that a couple of rogues found him. These rogues, as deceitful as they were, just couldn't leave a small baby to die, so they brought him to the closest tavern and continued their way. The tavern the child was brought in was called Ignatius Saskrofa, and an old man owned it. This old man raised the child with a rough hand and harsh words, and right when the child was at the age of 8, he threw the child out and told him to never return, if not with many riches and fame. Once again this misfortunate child was thrown into the wilderness with nothing but mere clothes and survival's will. He promised to return to this wild tavern once more to finish the life of the evil old man, but the old man had only laughed and told that he would wait for that day. So the child went off for a long journey to find an answer to his questions and home for himself. On this long journey he learned many kinds of skills, and one dark night he saw a person summoning a dead corpse out of a grave. This person, covered with purple smoke, talked some weird language whilst the corpse slowly dug its way out of the grave. It was a horrifying sight to see a once dead man walk on the surface of the world again, but the child seemed just excited about what happened. At this point, he decided to learn more about that weird incident. He wanted to find his parents, but had heard that the landlord of some farm had killed them, so he thought that the dark arts of the stranger might be the way to get them back. The child had made a long journey, but he had reached the first big city in his journey. This city was a harbor city full of crime and gamble. With his small size and fast legs, he was able to steal himself food at Market Street, and he met a nice young lady who let him sleep inside her house. The child knew, however, that this journey should continue to other regions, so that he could find out what that dark stranger had done that one night. 2 years after this child had departed from the Ignatius Saskrofa, he approached the ship as a cabin boy to learn more about people and hopefully the weird summoning of the dead. He had luck, as a scholar embarked the ship and told tales of an ancient school of magic or conjuration, which allowed its users to summon unworldly things from the afterlife. He told this child that the evildoers who use this magic for bad purposes are called necromancers, and some very skilled ones called themselves liches. In the dark and silent hours, this child trained his skills at magic, and even without a master to teach him, he slowly started to understand how the power of magic can be used, and learned to make a frost ball as his first magical creation. After this, he didn't have much difficulties to start a flame from his hands and mold dirt into objects. A few years passed from the first successful frostball. He killed a rat from the ship and decided to try if he could manage to bring it back to life. After several attempts and failures, he suddenly created dark, ominous green light on the corpse of the rat, which tore the rat's skin and flesh, leaving it only with its skeletal body, with some pieces of the flesh hanging from the bones. This child screamed and felt incredible joy at the same time as horrifying fear, and crushed the rat's rotten head with a wooden plank. At this point he felt like he had realized the secrets of the world and could use them as he wanted to. He could easily spawn ice and fire, but if he could revive a dead body to life without destroying the body completely, nothing could stop him. Within a month, the ship was empty of all the rats, and the bones of those rats the child put into a barrel. The captain of the ship was a bit confused of why the rats had disappeared, but believed that the gods just wanted the ship to sail longer. The child faced a problem. The ship he was on wouldn't land for another month or two, and he had run out of test subjects at the peak of his studies. He wandered and did that for 2 long days. After the 2 days, he decided if he wants to get better, he can't stop now. He knew the ship had 3 cats on board to catch the rats, and he decided to use those cats as his test subjects. He had to be careful though, as the crew might get scared or angry of his doings. So at the deepest night he lured one of the cats to a silent corner of the ship and cut its throat. The cat lay dead in front of the child as he started to work his magic. Once again the deep green-colored shade covered the body, and the body started to rise. Only a small part of flesh, but still most of the skin, was torn off the body, and the body stood by its own legs for what felt forever. Then the cat meowed once and collapsed to the ground as a lifeless corpse. This was the biggest advancement the child had made since the first rat, and he was excited. After a couple of nights he had tried the same with the other cats, and always with better results. Unfortunately, one of the cabin boys had noticed the last cat's fate and told it to the captain of the ship. The captain, perhaps out of fear, decided to throw the kid out at the next spot of land they reached. Whilst waiting for the land, they locked him up into a cell and prayed for mercy from the gods. And so the ship landed, and the kid was thrown out after the long 6 years he had worked and trained his magic on the board. He wasn't sad or sorry, he just wanted to try more and become better at reviving the undead. He had reached the far end of Tamriel, some small village with not much anything in it. As nobody in this land knew him, he decided to call himself Fereto Mireste. It is here where our story begins.